Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a new kind of experimental version of Sleep With Me we've never done before. So welcome. These are just bedtime stories from our podcast, Sleep With Me. And to make them feel fresh, these ones are from a couple years ago. So if you're a regular listener, you might get a refresh. And if you're new, these are just bedtime stories from a show called Sleep With Me. They're strange, they're meandering, they're a little bit different. And all this is made possible by listeners like you, regular listeners like you. And so I just want to let you know that's how we're able to put the show out. And so if you are a fan of Sleep With Me, you listen to it on a regular basis, please consider supporting the show. You get ad-free episodes, you get ad-free story-only episodes, tons of other cool stuff at Sleep With Me Plus. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. But if you're in a position and you have some money every month, or you say, hey, maybe I don't watch that streaming service, I'd rather give it to a podcast, think about your favorite podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, and support that podcast. If it is Sleep With Me, I consider supporting the show, would be great. But if it isn't, or there's a podcast you listen to way more, brings you a lot of value during the day, please support that podcast. Podcasting is going through a different time right now, and your favorite podcast, the one you get the most out of, could use your support the most. So consider supporting it however they request support. Just check it out, like listen to the show or check out their website, or consider supporting Sleep With Me. If Sleep With Me, you say, oh no, Sleep With Me is the one I listen to the most, sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster. You know, I'm wearing flannel. I've talked about flannel in intros, and then I've forgotten what intro I talked about it. But I'm cloaked in flannel right now, or I'm clothed in flannel. So I can be cozy, so I can make you cozy. And if you're confused, you'll be confused and you'll be cozy, because it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. And if your hand hits the fridge tomorrow and you wonder, how does Sleep With Me put 2 episodes out every single week for free? It's these sponsors. You can find them at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. And I couldn't do it without all of you. Thanks, patrons. What do you say we get on with the show? Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a quick message here. If you get a lot out of Sleep With Me, if you're a regular listener, you like these new things we're trying out, like the story-only version of the show. If you're new, don't worry about any of this. But if you're a regular listener of Sleep With Me, or you're a regular listener of any podcast, if you have a favorite podcast, and it's not Sleep With Me, that's totally cool. If you have podcasts you listen to way more, or you get way more value out of, I totally understand that. Consider supporting that podcast. Podcasting as an industry is kind of going through a weird phase right now. Direct support from listeners is going to be, it seems like it's going to be the future of most shows. And so consider supporting the podcast you really love. And you could do that. You could find out, you could listen to the show and see how they ask to be supported. Or reach out to them and say, hey, how can I support you? Or if you can't afford, a few dollars a month, you say, hey, how else can I support you? But if Sleep With Me is the one, Sleep With Me Plus is the best way to support Sleep With Me. Sign up for Sleep With Me Plus. Not only you get unbelievably sweet different ways to listen to the show, but it's a huge help for us to be able to do stuff like this. But yeah, think about what your favorite podcast is, and then go ahead and go to their website, or if you already know how they like to be supported, support that show. Thanks and good night. All right, buddy, it's Scoots here. It is time for our episodically modular series, with a touch of seriality. It's at this point called Spice Friends. And so if you're new to the show or new to the series, or you say, Scoots, hasn't the series kind of changed? And I say, yeah, these series are always in Sleep With Me, always in developing, but sometimes reverting, developing, Sleep With Me stories. Sometimes they're going nowhere. They're neither reverting nor developing, but they're always becoming something. But sometimes they've already become what this is not an intro, though. It's a setup for it's not a new series anymore. This is the 4th episode. Here's the good news, though. This could be your first episode, because I'm going to tell you everything you need to know right now. And then you could listen to the other 3 episodes. That'd be prequels. That actually just works out like the famous space opera. A New Hope was episode 4. So there you go. You're right in time. You're listening at the perfect time, and that's why I'm going to tell you everything I need to know. Episodically modular means that even though there's a touch of seriality, you could listen to these episodes in any order. Out of order might even be preferable. In fact, you don't even need to listen to them at all because I'm going to carry you off into dreamland. So I guess, yes. Oh, okay. So what is Spice Friends? Spice Friends is a story about a world just like ours and not too far in the future where, and you've seen this portrayed in so many movies and so many different, I don't know if I've read any books about this, but I've seen movies and cartoons, animated programs, comic books, and toys. So at some point in our future, in this world, it's a fictional world, there becomes big ones, like big forest friends that are walking around. And they don't exactly love humans. And somehow, if you trace it back, you say, okay, maybe this has to do with, there was once a song called Radioactive. I can't remember who sang it. Maybe it was just something in the background. I get a London dance feel from it, but I'm not sure if it was, kind of that style of song. And these big ones appeared, and they said, we didn't get the message right away, but they said, hey, we don't like that song, or anything that subtextually might be related to that song, if you catch my drift. And we didn't realize that as human beings in this world that I'm broadcasting from now, as of right now, the second. And so the big ones would go around and they'd say, well, what are you using that? What are you playing that song for? Offensive dancing, defensive dancing, energy producing dancing. Actually, we don't care. Just we'd prefer it in a strong sense. We may step on your boombox or take the batteries out, but we're also gigantic beings. So that was the state of the world for quite some time. And they would come, they would go. It was always a conundrum. How do we deal with this? But then they had gone for a while, and they made this comeback. Oh, we thought we had them all on this island. It was technically an atoll. But how come everybody now yells at me, hey, Atoll? I said, oh, I said, dang, no, I said, great quiet, when they're honking, no, or they're just driving by, make a comment about how I walk or how I bike, and then they usually say, hey, Atoll. And I said, I thought I was the only Atoll fan around that didn't know really very much about atolls, because I think they're islands. But if they actually, is it an island? Here's a question. Do islands, this is really a question. I'm not kidding. And I guess I already answered it. The islands must go all the way down below the sea to connect with the earth below the sea floor, right? Okay. Dead silence in my brain. One of my parts of my brain just face planted itself. But really, if that is the case, there's got to be some floating islands, right? Maybe not. Yeah, I guess my ignorance is always on display. But they lived on they were all resting on a atoll. Don't you want to call me an atoll now? I say, but no, it's not my name, but I do like atolls. I love saying it. Or atoll. You say atoll, I say atoll. There's that effect when you're going by, the Doppler effect, that it sounds like atoll when you say atoll. So, okay, giggles aside, the big ones were on an atoll. Then President Smith and Vice President Smith were elected as president and vice president of the United States at the time. It just happened to coincide with the comeback of the big ones. President Smith had to won disconnect part of the United States to become like an Atlantis-like civilization in an attempt to get rid of one of the big ones. That didn't really work, which probably stressed President Smith out even more. Then President Smith became a big one with this serum or something. Doesn't matter because it's in the past. But President Smith became a giant, big one, big being. Dealt with the big ones, got them all. Actually, it seemed like it was going to be an offensive thing, but it was really a distraction. President Smith got all the big ones to the big ones atoll. And then I guess there was some sort of, President Smith was working with this planet Zipper, who would then put our entire planet into hibernation. Now, the good news is because of their metabolism or something, big ones sleep a lot longer than everything else on the earth. So they stayed asleep a long time, a lot longer than all the humans and everything else. And then we had sent a space team or astronauts to Planet Zipper to get some longer-term solution. One astronaut came back. Now, in the meantime, this was like, space travel is not like in the movies. It takes a while. And so by the time this astronaut got back, a lot of things had changed. So if you were living where you're living now, you may be under the auspices of affiliated, I don't know, the friendly nations or something. Vice President Smith, she had, I think, taken a step out of politics, but then returned, or whatever you call it, leadership, I would call it. And she was now president, technically not president of the world, but president of the CN, Cooperative Nations. I just got that note. Thank you. And then the big ones, so I'm trying to get to where we're supposed to be, right? So then the big ones appeared again, unrelated to President Smith being president of the world. Or not appeared again. They were already they were sleeping on Big One's Island or hibernating, and everyone was waiting for the hibernation to end. Not exactly a great thing. That one of the astronauts returned from Planet Zipper. They had sent instructions, so there was like this whole children's programming happening, and cereal and toys at the instructions from the astronaut of Planet Zipper they sent ahead of time, which was confusing, but President Smith, she went with it. And then, but she was expecting the astronaut to have, like a laser or a super serum or something else to deal with, or like a big one, a positive big one or something to deal with the big ones, or like extending their hibernation. And understandably, the whole world was expecting that too. Meanwhile, the astronaut said, no, we don't have anything like that. But if you trust me, if we put on this children's programming, which is also geared towards adults with positive reinforcement, validation, all that kind of good stuff, I think if you trust me, you'll see. Well, because the astronaut explained to President Smith and all of us who are listening, but I'll explain it to you now. There was a manifestation theory that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You got to take it on faith alone. But if you track things back, you say, okay, wait a second. When the inspiration for the song Radioactive started, which is not the actual inspiration, I know, that's when the big ones appeared. And the manifestation theory goes that's how they became into being. Again, I'm sure science could eventually will track down the actual mechanics of all that. But right now it's beyond our understanding, especially for this story. Many things beyond my understanding. But the astronaut said on Planet Zipper, they take the manifestation theory seriously. And if a big one can manifest from that kind of energy, just like the song Pure Energy, which may be or may not be by the same band, but it's in the same style as that. It said, if you use positive energy, maybe you could manifest a positive big one. Obviously, President Smith kind of scoffed at that and said, we're actually looking for real solutions here. But the astronaut was very confident, said, hey, trust me on this one, or go ahead, you only partially trust me, keep going in parallel. Now, the only thing that's troubling, beyond the big ones that was troubling President Smith was the fact that she did have one big solution, which was similar to her father's, but her father's was only localized in the United States and California and Nevada. She had a solution because the big one's atoll happens to be at an just like all good atolls, they're at an intersection of continental plates and things or whatever, whatever those things are called, lines, where continental plates intersect, and they did have a device that could cause, definitely cause the big one's atoll to go bye-bye. But it would also impact those continental plates. So definitely get rid of the big one's atoll, but it would have a lot of after effects for regular folks. And a large impact. And so President Smith is like, okay, that's a real tough decision to make here, not the one I want to make. Get rid of the big ones, but no one's qualified to make that choice, though everybody expects. President Smith also, this wasn't revealed in any of the stories, but I'll just tell it to you now so you have it, is the only one that can enact that, because working with her father and seeing the path her father had to go down, and because of her intelligence and foresight, made sure this was that she would carry the fail-safe and that there's no way to duplicate it or anything. So only she can make the final choice because she carries the fail-safe with her. Of course, you can see that there's a little bit of a thing in that plan, And she did have minor backup plans. But again, for the time being, she said, if anybody's going to do it, I'm going to do it because my father had to do something similar. I'm president of the world, but I don't want to do it because I'm president of the world, not part of the world. And, not just a part of the world, but also President Smith on the other side said, but I'm president of the world, so I will have to decide this if needed. The astronaut was saying, don't worry about it. Meanwhile, the manifestation theory turned out, again, this could be just projection, but let's just say it for the sake of the story. It turned out to be true. The projection or manifestation worked, and they were able to manifest a giant positive cinnamon stick who managed to deal with moth breath, the first big one that awoke, and saved different places from moth breath, and then left the world, maybe fused with moth breath or something, but they went into outer space. So that's one big one gone. I guess we won't be I don't think we'll see cinnamon spice. That was the name of the spice friend. So, but meanwhile, that left an island also still full of big ones that were, getting to the end of their sleep cycle because moth breath woke up. Though moth breath may have been awakened by a bunch of people that had a moth breath-based belief system. So without further ado, that's where we're left off. President of the world, President Smith, the astronaut working on positive solutions through children's programming that manifest giant spice-based beings. And in a recipe with one Hollywood announcer who really is my cinnamon spice, Mr. Antonio Banderas. Thank you, Scooter. The friends beyond the binaries, the ladies, the gentlemen, the boys and girls. It's time to get spicy with Spice Friends. Clumpity clump. Yeah. Holy cow. You did, once again, you came up with the thing. See, just like it takes a while for the show to get a title, it takes a while for your brilliance. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people that work with you expect you to just turn it. I mean, your charm's already turned on. But that, whatever that is, that skill that you were able to do there, you can't just turn that on, right? It takes, right, Scooter, it takes a while. And I need a title and understanding of this basic story, which you've provided me now. Thank you and good night. All right, yeah, you could go lie on my bed again. I have your comforter. I also added some other comfort. Like I said, how's that comfort? I tested the comforter when you weren't here, and it was quiet. So I don't know if there's something else. It sounds like you're wearing all leather clothes, but you're not. So I also ordered you some clothes that you can that I need you to change into. Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks. That's Mr. Antonio Banderas, and this is Spice Friends. Okay, so I'm recording these messages for you or forever listens to it. President Smith, I'm very proud of you. I think I mention that every single time, but it's just because the spice, cinnamon spice worked, and there's been some time since cinnamon spice's appearance. And just because it worked once, we don't know. I mean, I'm confident it'll work again. But, everyone expected it to work again immediately before any other big ones awoke. And I have told you this interpersonally, but I don't know if there's a way to announce it to the world. That's like, well, what if this doesn't work in the way we all expect? My team is prepared for that. It's not, and even when it did work, it wasn't in the way everyone expected. Because along the way, one thing we learned is when we lost sight of the why and the what the first time. Is that what caused it not to work? I mean, probably contributed to it. So I have to think about how I can stay focused and my team can stay focused. And I don't know if the right word is firewall, but you've done a good job of that, protecting us from the outside world, our existence, even those people said, oh, that's interesting that, there was a spice run on that show, and then there was a spice run in the world. It's brought in a lot of spice run stuff is selling out, of course, but it's just not that simple, But, the whole world is waiting vigilantly for both the next big one and the next spice one. And, there's reports all the time of spice friend or big ones waking up or spice friends appearing. And that, why can't one appear now? But there hasn't been any appearances, but people want either answers or actions from you in their leadership. They don't want faith. They don't want trust. Obviously you can't just present the manifestation theory or to say, hey, trust us. Everything's going to be okay. Just be patient. We don't know what we're doing, but trust us anyway. And at least on my end, I know what our next steps are going to be because I know I can feel the feelings directed at you and that everyone's feeling right now is pretty potent. It's the ANGER. And it walks hand in hand with that vigilance, this hyper vigilance. And so we're moving forward, and we've been pitching ideas, and we've been testing out different spice friends, and none of them have appeared, and that's fine. But we thought about it in a session recently. I said, okay, it's hard to detach, to be process-based when we're hoping for an outcome. But we keep returning to the feelings, and that's why I'm talking about feelings, because we made a list of how do we feel or what do we think about those feelings I mentioned. And and then a list of spices that don't reflect those feelings. But one of the things we came up with is like, well, it's tough to understand, or this doesn't make sense, or how is this healthy when it's portrayed always in a not a positive light? How do you validate something that's volatile? What do you do? Because, of course, if there's an island full of big ones, you're going to be, on alert. And we kind of talked about the feelings and the thoughts and, tried to stay process-based. And then we said, well, what is a spice that's kind of like that, especially from a child's perspective, that they don't understand? If you told them about it, they probably wouldn't be interested. Even if you told them, trust me, when I put this in food, it's one of those things that makes us taste better. We couldn't we did want to get the rights to the Dragonlance prequels of the two brothers and the Magier brothers. And then just for the one scene where Raceland gets a job cooking at an inn, and the secret ingredient is garlic. But that was not possible, and they said it was too confusing. So we said, okay, garlic. But that was the spice we came up with. It was garlic is in the same way or similar to those other feelings. You say, I don't know about it, or I'm not sure. And if you overcook it, holy cow, it's bitter, it's unpalatable if you go too far. Or if you just have it raw, you wouldn't do, unless only under certain circumstances. But at the same time, if you roast it and it's caramelized, it's entirely different and subtle. And so we started to work on understanding garlic, or garlic being the misunderstood spice friend. And especially even as adults, you say, oh, okay, there's garlic. It's papery. It's leathery. We say, okay, that's not where it's garlic. Garlic could be green. So I don't know. We just started doing dances about that and how it feels to be misunderstood. And it was, I guess we did make some missteps with showing garlic, how to cook garlic. I didn't realize it at the time, but I wanted to that was me. I wanted to point out that, what if you overcooked this? And we didn't air those, luckily. But we did take the steps back, and I said, okay, wait a second. Like the team reminded me, follow the feelings, right? And I said, okay, what if we, through song and dance and in a subtle way that I'm not capable of, but this amazing team of dancers and singers and writers and performers and puppeteers, they've been able to do. What if there is a way we could create dance and song and story to take garlic on a journey that I think our world needs to go on, of following those feelings. And so we did. We've been doing these stories of taking garlic to places maybe garlic doesn't want to go. And again, it's cloaked, but not in a way that insults children, obviously. More, it's even obvious. A lot of it's on the nose, but it's in song and dance. So then it makes it not on the nose. I don't even understand some of this stuff. But, what would happen if garlic stays on guard about everything? Just like you are in that place of, if the world's aggression, if they expect you, they're turning it against you so to make you more offensive, but you don't want to make that last choice there. Or I don't know, I can't speak for you. But leading garlic down that road and saying yes every time, and I guess validating, of saying, yeah, okay, what if you're on guard? Okay, what if you go with these feelings, and seeing the folly in it through garlic's eyes mostly, and saying, oh, wait a second, you can, if you validate it, then you kind of see, you get sad in the end. You say, well, I really feel bad for you, garlic. You followed this friend. Is again a little bit of a misdirect. Down angry road, keeping an eye on everyone. And look where it led. Now, how do we feel about garlic? Oh, wait, were we with garlic the whole time? We were dancing along, following along. We feel a little bit sad if that's where we ended up, not in Candyland. No, no, no. But there's been no results of garlic, whatever, appearing. But I can feel it in the team. I could feel it in me, and I can feel it in the children, that there is a response. And I don't think the adults are changing their mind. They're saying, oh, no, no, President Smith, it's time. We'll take action against the CN. We'll leave the CN if you don't, But the funny thing is, I guess to me, what you've explained to me and what you've explained to them is you don't know. There's theories, it'll be this ring theory around, concentric rings around Big One Atoll. But other geologists have said, no, no, no. It probably will cause an impact on the other side of the world, or, there's this tectonic plate theory. So you have people holding on to different theories of what would happen. I mean, every theory says this impact of getting rid of Big One's Atoll will come with great cost. But everybody's looking at it from a different way because no one knows what will happen. But they all want you to act anyway because they want you to act right. So that's what I'm thinking garlic is providing us right now. But, the world does not want to wait, and it makes me wonder how you're feeling. And I guess you have to be stoic and strong. But I have seen you watching the more time you spend down here, and that you are, I guess that's where my pride came from at the beginning, isn't your ability to be a leader. It's the ability to also be a join-inner or a part of, and that's kind of, you've been a part of the team. You've set aside, and you've even scheduled it as a time. Because, we've talked about these things, obviously, where you're only a part of the Spice Friends production team or the Big Emojis team, whatever it is. Spice Friends have kind of taken off where the show itself, still the Big Emoji show with Spice Friends, but, really the Spice Friends are the focus. So, I don't know. I mean, we've talked a lot about it and the cost of things and where things are going. And I also know that you have some plan. I mean, by coming here and joining us, that's part of the plan. But it's a lot for you to carry. I like watching you dance and sing and partake and be a part of the team, a contributor to the team, even with your presence. And I guess, just like everywhere else in the world, there's staff members that have stronger feelings about what actions you should take. But if they're participating, they can only, they have to walk their own path. Let me just take it. You're knocking at my door. Excuse me. Okay, well, it's been a little while since I've recorded, but and things have happened. You'd knocked on my door during my last recording, and you had said, okay, with these rumors, they're not rumors anymore. Because it's like we had talked about, people started seeing garlic spice everywhere, which we were hopeful about, but it wasn't showing up on any of our tests. And then you said there's something showing up, but it's not from Big One's Atoll. It was never on Big One's Atoll. And so we said, maybe this is garlic. It said it was in wetlands areas. The signal would go, it would disappear. But that also started to line up with people seeing this new Big One, Boggy, and rising up from bogs or swamps. And again, those are somewhat isolated areas in most places, in wetlands. But again, when we looked, we said, wait a second, these sightings do line up with the tests now. And some of the views people were saying didn't exactly, I don't know, that it looked different in different places. But then we had, I guess our first, the Boggy's here, and it's here in Florida, or the former Florida. We still call it Florida, though. And Boggy is, Florida's wetlands, all wetlands now, but cities and wetlands. And Boggy's been visiting the cities, and it's not going good. But then vanishing back into the wetlands and occasionally appearing throughout the world. And again, we said, but now we know, the world doesn't know, that there's only one Boggy. And you said, does this fit the manifestation theory? Is it manifesting? And I said, no, I don't think you could manifest twice or demanifest and remanifest. But obviously the world didn't know that. And they said, what if there's multiple Boggies? And while it's a distraction, it was also another impetus for the world, other leaders of the world, and I guess a large percentage of the populace to try to, again, get you to take action. But it was also, as we stayed tuned to the feelings of the world, it was also this thing of, wait a second, things have changed. There's still that ANGER and this vigilance and kind of leading you to be like, take action or want you to take action. But now it changed a little bit too, because the feelings became more and more like frustrated with you is a mild way to put it, and blaming you for not getting rid of big ones, Atoll. Kind of more of a, like it went from a hot to a slow smolder. Like I'd say, what people would say would be contempt. And I saw it around us, even some of the staff, like I said, and I said, well, okay, they have their feelings, but if they're focused on being part of a team, those feelings don't have to be everything for them. They can be there. And so people were starting to feel loathing and blaming and, frowny faces. So I said, okay, well, how can we do this with garlic, whether garlic appears or not, which is really hard, especially with Boggy appearing and disappearing, but becoming more and more frequent in Florida. And again, just like you're responsible for the people of the world, you're saying, okay, well, sooner or later, Boggy's going to get closer to really the area where a lot of people live in Florida. But we talked about that, we actually returned to those cooking lessons and talked about garlic. How'd you feel about this mistake I made? I went on, and it's been rare since I've been on the show. And I told Garlic, hey, I made this mistake. I thought we would teach people about you. Because, when you cook, it was a little bit comedic, but again, with a strange undertone. And I said to Garlic, do you know you're not even the same as the garlic we eat? You're a symbol of garlic, but you're also a bigger symbol. But then I said, how are you feeling about all this? And Garlic said, not good. I feel like my temper's rising, but I also feel a lot of it directed at you. We played this out, and again, we played it out over song and dance. I'm trying to be as clear as I can, because sometimes the subtleness of the show, I don't know, this helps me to think it out and just see where I'm missing things. Because when I miss things, I'm missing the thing that's right on my nose, So we talked to Garlic about this and holding resentment and that kind of stuff. And again, where would it go? Let's head out again, Garlic, and take me with you. But the world's fires didn't subside towards you. But again, I felt a shift in the children and in the staff, even the staff's attitudes towards you, because when you get to the end of those roads, it's a sad road to go down. And you really can, when you say, hey, I keep validating this, but also looking at it and saying, okay, well, if we validate that you're feeling this way, but the feelings, but then you say, okay, well, what if you acted on that thought? Garlic, where would it take you next? When you see where those kind of things end up, you say, oh, maybe I should just let those feelings flow through me, because it's sad if I'm just controlled by the thoughts and the feelings. I don't know. So, but what couldn't be denied is that finally Boggy had headed inland, or what you would consider inland in other areas. And what was interesting, though, is Boggy, we thought Boggy was going to go to one of the big cities, and out on the outskirts of one of the big cities is this gigantic garden that's been maintained for so long. And that it's really like something people love. And, they've adjusted it to the the more wetlands type environments over the few decades. But something about Boggy seemed different. Now, we had learned by observing Boggy that Boggy was of the wetlands and the swamps and the bogs, so kind of an amalgamation of organic materials. But this garden really seemed to irritate Boggy, which was interesting with all the way the world was feeling, that Boggy seemed really angry at this manufactured garden. You say, okay, well, maybe it's this clash of organic versus a cultivated garden. Now, of course, we were wrong, because it had been a while since, whatever. So Boggy started clomping around this garden. It was very large. At first, we didn't even realize it, because we said, well, it's not that far outside of the city, and maybe Boggy's getting ready, or maybe, I don't know. But then we saw Boggy make its way towards the center of this garden, where there's this giant green stalk, towering, and Boggy was pacing around, and he seemed to be yelling with one of those sonic things at the stalk and kicking at the dirt, and we realized that Boggy's digging with the feet. There seems to be something about this green stalk, and I guess none of us ought to analyze it, or the history of the gardens. How long has that stalk been there? What was it? But it ended up, we would find out, because Boggy started to pull at the stalk and dig around the stalk and hit at the stalk, and then pulled it out of the ground and started swinging it. And our reaction was a bit of concern, because at the end of this long green thing was this big clump of earth. We said, is Boggy using tools? And then go to the history of the big ones. The big ones use tools not normally, but they could, and they never use them for anything other than causing property damage, I guess would be the way to put it. So Boggy's swinging this thing around, and we were all watching. We were getting ready to film something, and someone said, what if that's actually garlic? And I said, garlic is a bulb, and we did say, okay, let's get something on air. But what happened as we were, we had something ready to go. It was in the same thematic place. But at the same time, we noticed that suddenly the garlic, it was garlic, started to wrap itself around Boggy. And then feet, it was long, so it wrapped around Boggy a few times and then started to swing Boggy. up over this garden had these giant trees that were no longer trees. They were, just wood. They were trees that had passed to the great beyond. But their wood was there. It was called, the empty forest. And if Garlic threw Boggy over the tree, so they were hanging in counterbalance over this tree off the ground. And Boggy was writhing and trying to get some of the garden to grow up to connect, but it was pretty high up. And they sat there in the Florida sun for some time. They said, "Oh yeah, that's right. This is a lesson in garlic. Garlic is drying out, but Garlic was also drying out Boggy." And now, afterwards you realize, so wait a second, because Boggy's power was the wetlands and the swamp and the bog, not just the organic material, but the water as well. And eventually Garlic dried out first. Boggy was still resting and waiting, but it was clear also that Boggy's, obviously the thing that dried out first was the stalk. But Boggy knew that, so Boggy dropped down and on its feet and then became this giant spice friend, just like we would have expected, a smiling bulb of garlic. But what we didn't expect was Boggy kind of opened up to catch, garlic spice. And everybody says garlic spice, but yeah, garlic spice caught Boggy and shot out some of its cloves so they could fit Boggy in the paper part of Garlic. And again, Boggy was very irritable. And this part was a bit of a back and forth because Boggy was trying to use the earth and trying to get a splash of water. But Garlic seemed to know to just hold. And this kind of went along with those things we were saying. Okay, let's see your anger. Okay. Yeah, let's let that play out. Let's hold it. We'll be here for you as you get more and more irritable. And Garlic, you kind of marched along the few dry places left to the highest point it could get to, which luckily, these are giant beings, so it's not as like us walking across Florida to Georgia and eventually getting to the top, the highest, driest place it could find. And still letting things dry out and air out, but holding and smiling. And you could kind of see that Boggy was comforted by Garlic, too. I don't know. And again, we're still trying to figure out why did Boggy manifest. My theory is Boggy was all of those strong feelings people were feeling towards you. And wanting you to act and wanting to take away, to make you act. And then eventually Boggy kind of seemed to really be more dried out, and Garlic hopped into the sea and headed towards Big One's Atoll like a garlic bulb boat. Or a duck. I don't know. I guess it was Garlic was using its feet like a duck and just kind of floating along the water. And Boggy kind of had the sense this was really salty water. So not the kind of, some bogs are brackish, but not all bogs are brackish. Only brackish bogs are brackish, Boggy. And it gave us some time because all this unfolded slowly to address it on the show and to kind of address it in the same themes, to even give it a deeper lesson. What do we learn? Boggy sat where Garlic sat with Boggy. Garlic held Boggy when Boggy wanted to be held, or gave it a container for its feelings. And then Garlic went up to Big One's Atoll, climbed up to the top of that same volcano, and sat in there. And then again, before our eyes, we realized that those two had kind of become a flowering, I don't know, something. I guess, I don't know if there's garlic flowers, but they're sitting there in the plugging the volcano. Though I think it stopped flowing with cinnamon spice. And sitting in there, kind of like it's a big pot, and the two of them are there, but neither one of them they seem like just beautiful plants again. So I don't know. I know we're still waiting for the rest of the big ones, and, but I hope we can rest and say, hey, let me lie here and give myself and hold my own feelings and say, oh, who else feels this way? Can I hold their feelings too? Or can I hold some space for them? Because if we run down that road, it's a little bit sad. We don't want to be. It's okay to feel sad too. It's okay to be mad. But look where it goes. Let's see where it leads us before we're led. And I guess that's kind of your leadership style too, President Smith. So I hope you're getting some rest wherever you're hearing this. And I appreciate you. I'm proud of you. Good night. All right. I want to thank everybody that reviewed the podcast on Apple Podcasts recently. I want to thank It's Ryder, who said, I'm so grateful this podcast. Sophomore in high school, 3 honors classes, which is super stressful, and that makes it hard to sleep. And this podcast has helped keep my mind from racing. Thank you. I'm so happy to help you. KBOZ says, my go-to at bedtime. Been listening on and off since 2014. Recommended. I fall asleep pretty quick after the end of the intro. It's perfect. Thanks, Scooter. Coolia 1903 or Cool Leah 1903 says A+. So we get school theme going with these reviews. Works so well. Start the podcast and fall asleep. One time I had a dream. I was picking a mermaid tail for Scoots in The Sims. Cool. Anxiety no more, says great for anxious mind. Discovered this by Googling how to shut down my racing thoughts, and I can't believe how awesome it is, and it works. Thanks. So thanks to everybody for reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts. I also want to thank everybody that joined our referral program recently. We only get a few signups, and then it does take some work to get referrals, but I want to thank Emmy, who signed up, Celeste, who signed up, Abigail, who signed up, Alexis. I want to thank Lex, who got their first referral, Lori, Mary, Aiden, James, Sarah's got her first referral, Austin, Heidi's got 4 referrals, MJ, Bruce, Leggy's got 2 referrals, Kathy, Stephanie, Amy, Griffin, Mary, David, Mel, Louisa, Nick, and Mark. So thanks everybody who recently in the past few months signed up for that referral program. You can sign up and get rewarded for sharing the podcast at sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer. Thanks everybody. Hey everybody, this is Scoots with like a tuck you in message here for our bedtime story podcast. We're trying out, and I kind of said this, free way to support Sleep With Me and bedtime stories from Sleep With Me is join our referral program, sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer, REFER. You get rewarded for introducing people to the free version of Sleep With Me, including access to Sleep With Me Plus. But most of all, just think about what your favorite podcast is or one of your favorite podcasts, and then support that podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, but just to support your favorite podcast, because they could use your support right now. And if you decide, Sleep With Me is actually my favorite podcast, well, wow, I'm blushing, seriously, even though it's imaginary here in this context, and support it at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, or listen to a show you love and see how they want to be supported. Thanks.